This nightmare on Shipping Drive. In 2015, a young single mom of four, Cheryl Reed, was called up by her god sister, Portia Phillips. Cheryl and Portia grew up together, and Portia's mother is Cheryl's godmother. Cheryl at the time was living in California with her children. Portia was asking for Cheryl to come to San Antonio to help her with her 6 children, all under the age of 10 years old. Some of which belonged to her, air quote, husband, DeAndre DORCH. Being that the two were close, Cheryl thought this was a good idea and decided to bring her 3 younger children with her. Cheryl stated that her stay on Shipping Drive was uneventful and things were going well. After a few months, Cheryl had to unexpectedly return to California with her mom. So Cheryl, thinking that her trip to California would be quick, decided to leave her 2 youngest children, 3 and 4, in San Antonio with Portia and DeAndre. Cheryl took her youngest child, who was under 1 year old, back with her, as she felt as though they could not care for the baby because they had several young children of their own.
What?
So they all agreed.
No.
According to Cheryl, that was what happened. According to Cheryl, it was all agreed upon, and Cheryl was to return as soon as possible, and with that, she left for California. Now, obviously, with 8 kids to care for and a small single-family home, which was 3 bedrooms, 2 baths on Shipping Drive, Portia and DeAndre had a lot to handle. If you're not familiar with Shipping Drive, it is located on the northeast side of town. Of course, there will be some map expert out there that will correct me, but 35 North Windcrest Walsham inside 1604. So Shipping Drive is an older neighborhood. When I went out and looked at the location, the houses are like very close together. There's some houses that it seems like it's like kind of more like a duplex type homes, or they're like multiple like family homes right next to each other. Money was already tight for DeAndre and Portia, and with 10 mouths to feed in one home, this was a recipe for disaster. Cheryl, back in California, had not followed up with Portia and DeAndre, and in fact had no idea if her children were alive or dead.
What?
Months passed before the news even reached Cheryl of what had happened to her kids.
She didn't care.
In April 2016, so a few months
They
after
probably even her kids.
Cheryl left, Bexar County Sheriff's Office received a call from neighbors after midnight as claims of loud crying children were coming from the house on Shipping Drive. As officers arrived on the scene, they knew this was not going to be an ordinary welfare check and something much worse was happening. There in the backyard, they found the young boy with a metal chain locked around his ankle and cemented to the ground. 3-year-old girl was found with her arms tied to a doorknob with a dog leash. Both were suffering from hypothermia. The 3-year-old girl also had an untreated broken arm. And this part is important because we'll come back to it. There was no clear answer as to how long the kids were outside, but with their deteriorating conditions, it was apparent that they had both been outside for some time, covered in feces and urine and filthy. Neighbors claimed that they knew something was going on, but they could hear the kids crying quite frequently, and it seemed as if there were a lot of kids in one home.
Oh, I don't...
Police and first responders were able to get the children untied and freed to be taken to Children's Hospital downtown to undergo treatment and care. Portia and DeAndre were nowhere to be found. In fact, their 6 children were inside the home unattended. The police had to wait for them to return home since they could not be contacted or found. All the children were taken away and placed in CPS care.
Wait for what?
For them to come home.
But wait for what?
To figure out who lived there.
The kids can talk. If you go inside the house, there's evidence as to who lives there.
I'm going to show you pictures of the house.
But there's evidence as to who lives there. So they already had 5 kids. And then the two parents that lived there or whatever, or 6 kids?
They had 6 kids.
Okay,
yeah.
well, 6 kids, because you said 7.
Well, and then 10. 2 of them were outside.
They already had a couple of basketball teams in the house.
Right.
So they took the 2 that they didn't want in the house, left them outside. The neighbors heard noises for quite some time.
Right.
And finally decided to call somebody.
Yeah.
Nobody cared. I'm sorry, this whole picture doesn't paint anything that I can say anything nice about.
So, no, it gets better.
Okay.
DeAndre claimed he was working his night shift job, which was confirmed by the police, and Portia admitted to being out, but claimed the children were fine. Portia claimed that the 3- and 4-year-old that were chained up outside were not her children, and were actually dumped on her by their mother, a.k.a.
But they didn't chain
Cheryl.
themselves up.
So she openly admits that she chained them up outside. But she states she was going to take them to the fire station the next day because she could not take care of the children.
She had a broken arm, so she was already outside a couple of days before he decided to take them in somewhere.
So she made it seem like they had not been in her care for long, and she was being the kind one and taking these children in, but was going to turn them over the next day. So Portia and DeAndre both were accused of child abuse.
No, you call their mom and tell them to come back and get them if you don't want to take care of them.
So while investigators began to sort out the stories, they also began to look at the conditions of the children. Both the 3- and 4-year-old had markings and scars that were fresh, but also were many months, years older, meaning both had been abused repeatedly throughout their young lives. Although there was and will be significant damage to their mental well-being, all the children involved will survive the ordeal. In California, this is where Cheryl was living her best life out there. And as stated before, there was no communication between her and Portia and the condition of her children here in San Antonio. And it wasn't until a family member had called Cheryl and told her about what had happened and that she had seen on the news that the children had been chained up and abused.
She didn't need to be told what had happened to them. She let that happen to them.
Absolutely.
She left them in a household that was already overwhelmed with care or lack of care or neglect. You left your kids there to be neglected.
So Cheryl finally gets a hold of authorities, and of course they're like, get your ass back here. So she claims she had no idea. She said the plan was to leave the
Where's
children
Cheryl at now?
Shipping Drive. Hell, it gets better. And that she would be in California, and she states that everyone was supposed to be in agreement. So at that time, Cheryl Reed was also indicted for injury to children. So this trio would not officially be sentenced until a year later. So in the meantime, Portia was pregnant with her 7th child. In late 2017, 36-year-old Portia Phillips pleaded guilty to 2 counts of injury to child causing bodily injury. Portia never once denied, lied about the allegations, which kept her sentencing down, so she took a plea deal. Portia was sentenced to 50 years on each count, but will serve the sentences at the same time. Today, Portia is 42 years old, serving time at the Hilltop Unit in Gatesville, Texas, and she will be eligible for parole in 2041.
Let me make sure she don't get out.
It'll be another year before DeAndre is brought to trial, and he is not going down without a fight, of course, right? So DeAndre is keeping to the same old story. Know what was going on.
So he works 24/7? He never gets off work?
The defense plays up that he was working the night shift, and Portia did what the kid...
The night shift, so he's not working the day shift. Does he not understand the concept of time?
And that
out?
Portia had already pleaded guilty to the abuse, so DeAndre was innocent.
Innocent from what?
However, prosecutors played out DeAndre's criminal history and the fact that he texted Cheryl on multiple occasions asking her when she was going to pick up the kids. And that she, her daughter, had busted her arm while pulling so hard on the leash. So remember, she had an untreated broken arm. So they were all
So she was outside
aware.
for a long period of time
Right.
trying to pull on.
Right.
So if he's working all these hours, he had enough money to go take them kids to California. She ain't coming to pick them up. They had an address. They could have shipped the kids over there with the chain and everything if they wanted to, because they didn't really care about them. But no, he's at work. Because he's just an outstanding working person, taking care of some of them kids, but he ain't taking care of none of them. But he's innocent.
Well, luckily, the jury saw through his BS. And the jury ended up finding DeAndre guilty 2 counts of injury to child and 2 counts of child abandonment. DeAndre was singing, crying, and then he flicked off the cameras as he left.
I gotta go to work.
At sentencing, DeAndre was sentenced to 65 years.
Still not enough.
He is currently serving out on the Biloxi unit in Livingston, Texas, and he will be eligible for
road trip. Let's go visit some people.
For parole in 2046, and he has appealed his sentences to this day and claims his innocence.
I don't want to get fired. I gotta go to work. Be late.
I work the night shift. Okay, so Cheryl Reed, Mother of the Year.
Were they black? I'm sorry. You can cut that out.
So,
I don't like how you gave that side look. Like, what do you think?
I'm just like, Cheryl Reed was the last of the 3 to be to stand trial.
The mother.
Yes, and get this. Okay, she was also pregnant and would go on to have another baby in jail. Although Cheryl did not take a plea deal, she forever stands on that she was the best mother she ever could be and would have never allowed this to happen to her
She was a mother,
children.
all right. I ain't going to say the other word, but she was a mother, all right.
She went on camera and said those words, mind you. In regards to any messages or contact she had with Portia or DeAndre, Cheryl states that she never got any hint that something was wrong because she would have come and got her kids.
You don't need to have a hint that something's wrong, but something's wrong is the fact that you took one of your 3 kids back with you and never came back to get the other 2. That's what's wrong.
Right. So the judge would sentence Cheryl Reed to 10 years in prison for child abandonment and injury to child causing seriously bodily injury.
Why is there even a trial? Why is my tax dollars going to a trial for something like this when you purposely left your kids on somebody that couldn't take care of their own kids? You made that choice. Now we got to sit here and schedule a date to see if we can hear what you got to say.
Oh.
I don't want to hear what you got to say.
Oh, it gets better. Cheryl's time already in prison led to her sentencing being shortened. And with parole, she was released in 2018.
What's her address?
However, she violated her parole and was sent back to jail in April of this year.
What'd she do? Leave the new baby at the hospital?
And then was released again a month later. So Cheryl is out walking around having the time of her life here in San Antonio. She has relinquished all rights to all 3 of her children.
Of course, she didn't want them anyways.
And all 3 have been placed in a home with a loving couple to be adopted.
Shouldn't be all 4 of her kids?
Well, because she only had 2. The 3 and 4-year-old, and then she had the baby, so all 3 of her kids.
So she had 3.
Oh, well, then
and
she
was
no,
pregnant.
and then she had that baby's with his dad, and then she actually had another older child with another man. That's why she had to go back to California to begin with. So really, I think she's got like 5 or 6 kids all in all, and she not have nothing to do with any of them. Side note, this past February, the house at 3111 Shipping Drive would catch fire along with a few other homes.
Probably because the kids were trying to fix dinner and they were left at home still.
I don't know who lived there. I don't know if it was abandoned. I mean,
Somebody's still chained up to something.
The pictures I share are of the condition of the house now. You can see previous photos online of the home, but now it's literally just a pile of rebel trash and 100% needs to be knocked down and removed.
Them adults are a pile of rebel trash.
You can tell there are probably homeless people living there, and like I stated before, the neighborhood is older and as a lasting impression of this community would just be better gone.
This is ridiculous. How'd you find this story? I ain't never heard this story before. That makes no sense whatsoever. You got people that can't have kids. And then now that Tom Cruise or whatever his name is, what's his name? Ted Cruz, Ted Talk, whatever his name is. He gonna make abortion where you can't have kids and stuff here in Texas. These people popping out kids left and right, not wanting to take care of them. They could have had those kids and those children in a better home way before any of this happened. You don't come to another state and be like, I'm going to take one of the two or the three kids that I got, and I'm going to leave the rest of them here and be like, no, you need to tell me how my children are doing. No, fool. You call and see how your kids are doing. You check on your kids. If you wanted your sister to help you out, that's not helping asking for help. You left your kids. That's neglect. Nobody let me know what was going on. You didn't care. You ain't gonna sit here and lay it with somebody else to have another kid and be like, oh, it's okay, I'm gonna just keep reproducing.
I don't understand how they're able to. I just don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it.
Folks continue to have kids. Whether you're taking care of them or not, there's people that can have kids that don't take care of their kids. There's people that can't have kids, and they probably be better parents. But whatever God is blessing them to do, you are getting a chance to do something and another chance to do something better than the last time that you did. You don't go and just neglect your blessings. It doesn't make any sense. This story does not make any sense to me because you just don't do these things. Be like, oh, I'm a good mother. I'm the best mother in the world.
And the thing is,
what kind of Mother's Day card you want?
I think the thing that gets me the most is she's out. Like, she's out and she's living her life. And
she out of her mind.
A big shout out to our sponsor for this episode, Karen Vasquez of Caldwell Banker Realty. If you're looking for your next property, home, investment, call Karen for all your needs. And a special thank you to all our supporters of the Crimecast. You can listen to us on Spotify and now on YouTube. Come follow and interact with us on Facebook and Instagram.